Hey guys, Alex the Border Collie here, and today I'm doing another episode of FanFic Theater. So it's been a little bit since I did my last episode. So for this one, I'm going to be reviewing a fanfiction that I've debated doing for a little while. Mostly just because initially the idea of fanfic theater was to pick fanfiction that was maybe lesser known but of good quality and review it. I always felt like I wanted to save like the really fantastic ones for a little bit later on. But the one I'm going to be reviewing today is the fanfiction and audio drama Bride of Discord. As per usual, I'll start you guys off with some of the basic information about this comic as to what you're getting into. As far as genre goes, Bride of Discord is very much a romance story parody of Beauty and the Beast. It sticks mostly to the MLP canon up to a certain point, and I would consider it, in a way, an alternate universe story. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. Usually when I say alternate universe, I think of, like, stories that take place in dramatically different worlds. In this case, it's more like an alternate timeline, where one key event in the show happened differently in this version, and that being the main six turning Discord into stone. Happens differently in this version, and Discord actually gets away and is gone for a number of years. So that being the big key difference between this timeline and the canon timeline. From that point on, like I said, a lot of it's kind of a Beauty and the Beast parody. As far as the characters in the story, there aren't really any OCs in Bride of Discord that I can recall. It's pretty much just all canon characters, and pretty much all of the significant characters from the series make an appearance in here somewhere. So it's a cast of all canon characters, and it includes a little bit of everybody. So I don't think any of the characters really need introduction. So yeah, with that, we'll just dive right in, I suppose. Alright.
Long ago, the magical land of Equestria was ruled by a creature whose heart was as cold as stone. His name was Discord, the spirit of chaos and disharmony. After many long, oppressive years, his tyranny was ended when two Alicorn sisters named Celestia and Luna used 6 powerful objects called the Elements of Harmony to turn him to stone. They thought the spell would be permanent, but after over 1,000 years, the elements were recovered by myself and my 5 friends. Because the princesses were no longer connected to their power, Discord was released from his stone prison, and the first thing he did was take his anger out on Equestria. He tried his best to tear our friendship apart, so the elements would fail and he would be free forever, but the bond between us was too strong to break. All of Equestria rejoiced at our success, for Discord was defeated and would never escape again. Except, what we had told Equestria was a lie. What truly happened that day was this. I can't believe it! We did it!
That's awesome! Taste the rainbow!
We finally defeated him. Oh, good riddance. I think he was absolutely a horrible monster. Not to say that he had a terrible sense of fashion.
This calls for a party!
Come on, girls. Let's all go to the spa to celebrate. My treat.
Yeah!
Wait a second! Where's Discord?
Don't you know anything, Pinky? We turned him to stone, remember?
I know that, but where's the statue?
Oh, Pinky. It's right over... Hey! Where is he?
Oh, right, where is he? He should be here. Where's he gone?
Oh my goodness. What are we gonna do? Where is he?
He should be right here. This big, giant, grotesque, ugly statue thing. But it's not here. Where could he possibly be?
I don't understand. That spell should have turned him to stone.
We didn't kill him, did we?
I don't think so. He'd still be here.
Unless we vaporized him, or liquidated him, or turned him to grass!
Oh, you mean we may be walking on him?
Every pony, calm down. We didn't kill him. Right, Twilight?
We shouldn't have. The elements of harmony may work in mysterious ways, but they cannot destroy.
Then what the heck just happened with the lasers and the rainbow and the glowing eyes and dramatic music coming from nowhere?
Whatever they did to Discord, they at least turned everything back to normal.
So what do we do now?
We must inform Princess Celestia about this, and fast!
And when all the chocolate rain and cotton candy was gone, so was Discord. He wasn't even a statue. I mean, it would make sense if he turned into a statue, right? Since that's what happened last time, right? And then we thought we had to vaporize them, return him, grass and rainbow dash and flash. I went, ah! And they leaped into the air and Rarity almost fainted.
I see. Twilight, may I speak with you in private?
Oh boy, I hope she's not in trouble.
Wait! You didn't even let me get to the part about Spike's train sickness!
Simmer down, Pinky. Let's let him be.
We didn't kill him, did we?
No, it is not in the element's power to do such a deed.
Princess, what do they do exactly? I mean, the elements banished Nightmare Moon to the moon, but then later changed her back to good. Why did they turn Discord to stone? And where is he now?
The element's job is to restore balance to the land. It's complicated, but from what I've witnessed, they turn something into what it is on the inside. The first time they were used on Luna, there was darkness in her heart, and that's what banished her to the moon. The second time, there was something good inside her that wanted to get out, and that's what changed her back to my little sister. Discord, however. His heart is as cold as stone.
Does he even have one?
Every creature has a heart. Some simply refuse to show it.
So what did the elements do to Discord now?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing. He escaped before the spell hit him.
But I restored everyone's memories. Ponyville, it's fine now. The elements should have worked.
They did, and Discord saw that. He saw that he could not break your friendship apart, so he gave up Equestria to save himself.
How do you know that's what happened?
I know Discord. He's smart enough to know when to flee.
So he's still out there? We have to find him. Equestria is not safe as long as he's free.
No, he knows not to make another attempt to take over, not without time to contemplate his next move. When he appears, that's when we take action.
But what if...
Twilight Sparkle, we do not know where Discord is. The only thing we can do is wait for him to come out of hiding. When he does, I want you and your friends to be ready. Understand?
I understand, Princess.
Good. Now I will cast a spell on the elements so Discord cannot take them again. I will leave them with you. You must wear them at all times.
Yes, Princess.
So, we're just going to sit around and do nothing?
There's nothing else we can do.
He's out there, waiting?
Aw, great! Discord's not even here and he's still scaring Fluttershy. I'm gonna find that punk and give him a piece of my mind. Ow! Yeah, watch it! Twilight's right, Rainbow. We can't do anything now but wait.
And so we waited. And waited. And waited. After 3 years had passed, we assumed Discord had left for good and moved on with our lives. But we were wrong. We were, oh, so very wrong.
Which leads me into our review section, which leads me into my first critique here. Being that you'll notice that the part that I gave you the very beginning doesn't really go much of anywhere just yet. We get our setup, but it doesn't really get anywhere. So, leading into my first complaint, Bride of Discord has a very slow startup. It takes quite a while for the story to really get going, and there's a lot of parts in the beginning that feel very just kind of unnecessary and drawn out. And mind you, this review section has spoilers in it, so if you want to go listen to the whole audio drama and then come back and listen to my review, you can. And I'll put a link in the description below for you. But there's a part later when we actually get into our setup for the story, and Discord says, I want a bride, in return for the princesses, and they all get into this argument about who's going to volunteer to be Discord's bride. And here's the thing, it's already been built up to this point that Fluttershy is going to be the one to do it. Everybody reading the story or listening to it knows that Fluttershy is going to be the one to go, because they already built it up like Fluttershy has some significant thing with Discord. They built up this idea of her having dreams about him and all of this stuff. And that's all been built up to this point, so we already know what's going to happen. It's not like it's going to be a surprise to the audience. And this whole argument over who's going to go gets drawn out for so long, and we listen to the characters have essentially the same argument on a loop for quite some time. It's tedious, it's annoying, and it doesn't really go anywhere, and we all know how this argument's going to end anyway. We all know Fluttershy's going to go with Discord regardless. So, there is that. Other nitpicks about Bride of Discord in that category, Discord as a character, in some parts of the story, is actually fairly well written, and then in other parts, not so much. I think he's really well done in scenes like the relapse, and when things get a bit more serious, I think Discord is done fairly well. But on the flip side, there are moments with Discord that feels kind of strange and out of character. In particular, Discord talking to his reflection in the mirror. The whole idea of doing a scene like that in any story is to get some insight into the character's psyche and thought process and stuff. But in these scenes, I feel like the scripting, I guess, between Discord and his inner doubts or whatever is just not very good. These conversations don't feel very authentic or weighty. It feels awkward. Discord is not so complex in the story that I feel like those scenes are required, in all honesty. We could already get an idea of what Discord's thinking and feeling through these other interactions he's having with the other characters, particularly through his interactions with Fluttershy. So I don't know that these whole talking in the mirror scenes were entirely necessary. They're not my biggest complaint about the story, though. While on the topic of characters being written out of character, most of the characters in here are written reasonably well to their characters, but there's one character in particular that feels really, really out of her element, and that being Applejack. There's a subplot in Bride of Discord where they have this love triangle between Applejack, Rarity, and Spike, where Spike likes Rarity, which we all know, and Rarity doesn't really acknowledge it. And then they set it up like Applejack has this sort of wistful schoolgirl crush on Spike. She's pining for him, but too afraid to tell him how she feels. And this feels really, really, really out of character for Applejack. I have my own problems with Spike being shipped with members of the main six, but putting all of that aside, this in particular for Applejack feels very, very out of character. Why? Applejack is being written here like a high school girl with a crush, but that doesn't work for a character who is as mature as Applejack is. Applejack is a character who lost her parents when she was very young. She had to pick up the slack, work on the farm, be a businesswoman, be a mother to her younger sister, etc. She had to take on a lot of responsibility very young, and she had to grow up really fast. And so this whole schoolgirl crush thing would not work for her character. That's not the kind of person Applejack is. If you wanted to write Applejack as having romantic feelings for somebody, but not necessarily being motivated to say anything overtly about it, it would make a lot more sense to present this idea of Applejack maybe having an interest in someone, but not really feeling like she can afford a relationship. She's busy taking care of her family and taking care of her farm, and just feeling like it's a luxury she can't have right now. Kind of like, that single mom who would love to date and get back out there, but is busy with her kid and her job and just doesn't feel like she has the time for it. But this whole pining schoolgirl crush thing does not work for Applejack, and the story as to how Applejack fell in love with Spike also doesn't make any sense, because she says, "Ever since you saved me from the Timberwolves, I've been in love with you." By that logic, Applejack should be in love with half the other members of the main six by now. They save each other on a fairly regular basis, so I'm not really sure how this incident with Spike in particular is so special. I guess if we're sticking to the rule that Applejack is 100% straight and Spike is literally the only male character who has ever saved her life. Even still, though, it just feels really weird. It feels really weird and out of place and out of character. I think part of the reason for this was done so that Applejack could be the support character to Fluttershy, because as the story goes by and Fluttershy slowly falls in love with Discord and the rest of her friends don't understand, Applejack is the only one who really backs her up on all of this, and she's this sort of love guru advice giver here. And I think the idea of the Applejack and Spike thing was so that Applejack would understand how Fluttershy was feeling. But the other problem with that is I think Applejack already could do that without this weird relationship with Spike. I don't think Applejack needed that in order to play that role to Fluttershy, because that's a position Applejack already does fairly commonly and fairly well. Applejack is frequently that mature, older character, advice giver to a lot of people. So I don't think that subplot was necessary for Applejack to play that supporting role. Not only that, but it kind of presents Rarity as being kind of a bitch for not acknowledging Spike, and I have to point out the fact that Spike is a child. I'm not going to get into all this. If I haven't already done a shipping analysis talking about the Spike thing, leave a comment down below and remind me to do that later, because I'll make a whole separate video about that. Applejack feels very awkwardly out of character, and not for any real particular reason. I guess there are a lot of things in retrospect, too, in the story that are not completely necessary. The Applejack and Spike subplot really isn't necessary. If you really wanted to give Applejack some sort of romantic something that would allow her to relate to Fluttershy, you could instead set up a backstory of her maybe having been in a relationship before and it failed, or she let it slip her by, and giving Fluttershy advice so that Fluttershy doesn't let a potentially good relationship pass her by, or that kind of thing, and that would have worked fine. Hell, Rarity could have also probably been a good candidate for that kind of backstory and romantic love guru type stuff as well, given her character. But the whole schoolgirl crush thing with Applejack just doesn't really work. The Discord talking to himself in the mirror scenes, in retrospect, don't really feel like they were all that terribly necessary, as most of what's discussed between Discord and his psyche are really just things the audience kind of already knows from all the other things that we've been given. They don't really reveal anything terribly insightful. The whole having conversations with yourself thing in that way is a very sort of cartoony and surreal thing to do, and if you're gonna do it, I think you should be getting something a bit more insightful out of it. On the positive end of things, there are a lot of good things about Bride of Discord that they really, really like. The story concept in and of itself is there's nothing, I have nothing against that. It's not a bad idea. And I like the use of the rule of 3 in the beginning, with Discord sort of getting 3 things in return for 3 things. A bride in return for the princesses, a castle in return for turning the world back to normal, and so on. And that's all really cool, and I appreciated seeing that little use of the rule of 3's typical fairy tale mechanic. In the story, once it does get going, there's a lot of moments in the story that are actually really, really good. In particular, Discord's relapse at the climax of the story is really, really well done. And the use of his powers is very creative, and it's very clever, and it's very, very Discord. He feels very in character there, in that moment, when we have the relapse. There are also other moments, too, that are just really sort of iconic from the story, and really charming and endearing. The dance with Fluttershy and Discord in the moonlight, it's cheesy and sappy and romantic, and most of the story is very sappy, cheesy, romantic stuff. And if that's not your cup of tea, this isn't going to be the story for you. But that scene, admittedly, is just incredibly adorable, and it's really hard not to just sort of admire the cuteness and the quirky awkwardness of the whole interaction. And it is romantic, but it also paints Discord, too, in moments as being very socially awkward and whatnot. And it's funny and it's charming. I actually do really like the story for all of my nitpicks on it. It's not a bad story overall. It's really just a case of a story that could use to be trimmed down in a lot of places. I think that's really its biggest problem, is just that it takes a story that doesn't really need to be that long, and it adds a lot of filler that's not really necessary. And so, although there are some really great scenes in it, you kind of have to wade through a lot of meh to get to those really great moments. If you like, cute, sappy romance stories, this is very much for you. There's nothing wrong with sappy, cheesy romance every once in a while. It's fun. And the Discord relapse thing really does, I think, deliver a pretty potent emotional gut punch. I feel like that whole climax was actually handled really, really well. And the fact that they end up not getting married at the end of the story, at least not right away. But they go through all of this, and Fluttershy and Discord go off into the room together to talk privately, and everyone thinks Discord's going to propose to her, and when they're just like, you know what, instead of getting married right away, maybe we should just go steady. And that was actually really funny to me. That caught me off guard. I got a laugh out of me. because it was built up so much, and it was just not what we were expecting, and it was great. It was a great little moment. Of course, they do get married like a year later or however long it was, but that little gag there was pretty funny. I liked that. A lot of the voice acting's pretty good for the most part. And this was actually the first fan fiction that I ever read when I first got into the My Little Pony fandom. So it was my first exposure to MLP fan fiction and its general quality. I would say that Bride of Discord is a good story that could use a fresh polish. I think this story could probably actually really benefit from being rewritten and just revised. Take a lot of the same good moments and still keep those in there, but shave off a lot of the fat and sort of streamline it to its core elements. And I think you could get something really, really good out of that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say for now. I think I've pretty well talked about all of my pros and cons to Bride of Discord. What ended up convincing me to do a review of this was actually somebody on YouTube who had commented on one of my shipping analysis videos telling me I should read Bride of Discord or listen to it or whatever, when I had already listened to the series prior, so I was already aware of it. I just had been debating doing a video on it. I think that's all I've got to say. Overall, Bride of Discord is good. It could do to have some of the fat trimmed off, but it is an overall good story, and if you like cheesy romance, then it's right up your alley. It's a good Fluttercord shipping story. It's cute, and it has some really good moments in it. And I would recommend it if you're a big Fluttercord fan. That's all I got to say for now. And remember, don't take yourselves too seriously.